I said don't go. She left with him anyway. Here's what happened. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. A little context first. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and my wife, let's call her Emily, 25, has been my partner for nearly 6 years and my wife for 3. No kids, no house, no real assets. If anything, we've got more debt than dollars in the checking account. We rent a place, and I'm the one carrying most of the weight. I bring home about $4,000 a month, and she clears around $1,500. I grind hard to give her the life she's used to, and lately I've found myself staring at something I never thought I'd face. My work crew is pretty tight, kind of a second family. About 3 years back, a coworker I'll call Chris asked if I wanted to join a rec soccer league. I signed up and have been playing for 2 seasons now. Emily came to pretty much every game. I took it as support at first, even though a voice in the back of my head wondered if the real draw for her was the drinks that always seemed to come with soccer nights. On my game nights, I kept the booze light because I was playing and driving. Emily, meanwhile, would be in the stands loosening up, and then we'd ride home together. After a lot of games, a handful of us, guys and girls, would keep the night going at somebody's place or a bar or a pizza joint. Sometimes it ended up back at our place. Sometimes we detoured somewhere else. No big deal, until a couple weeks ago. That night, folks planned to hang at a guy's house a city over. After the game, I told everyone, sorry, we're out. I've got an early morning. On the drive home, Emily was on her phone, and right there in the passenger seat, she messaged a teammate I considered a buddy, call him Tyler, asking him for a ride to that get-together. Then she asked me if I minded her going. I told her no. I have work tomorrow, and I want to be with you tonight. She went cold, angry, boozy, and silent. We pulled into our driveway, and almost on cue a car stops in front of the house. It was Tyler. Emily had already made the executive decision. I was heated. I walked to his window and said, I'm not okay with this. You need to go. Before that could land, Emily hopped out of our car and into his. They drove off. I stood there in the quiet, just burning. In that mess of anger, I plugged in the old iPad I'd bought Emily years back, the one that still had her messages and social accounts tied to it. Once it had a little juice, I could see where she was. I tried to wait her out on the couch, but I crashed around 3 a.m., and she still wasn't home. When I woke up, she was in our bed. No idea what time she'd slipped in. I got ready for work without waking her or kissing her goodbye. First time I'd ever done that, and I did it on purpose so she'd feel it. Before I left, I slid the iPad into my briefcase. At the office, after a morning meeting and a couple calls, I pulled the iPad out and saw a notification pop up from a messaging app. Tyler is typing. I opened it and found a stream of messages that were supposed to disappear. I guess that older app version didn't know how to self-destruct because I watched, in real time, their play-by-play from the night before, Tyler talking about them making love, and hints about other guys having fun. I nearly blacked out from the rush of it. Then it got worse. Right there, I watched Emily ask Tyler to send a video of himself doing things. He sent it. I wish I hadn't seen it. I wound up in the office bathroom, throwing up until I couldn't stand. I was shaking. I told my boss I needed to go and got permission to leave. After a few hours trying to calm down, honestly worried I might hurt myself or somebody else, I drove home. Emily was still asleep. I set my stuff down and asked her to come downstairs. I sat across from her and told her to walk me through her night, every detail. She told a clean story, drinks, pool, talking, nothing else. Then I asked when she'd last talked to Tyler. She said they'd messaged a little that morning, but nothing important. That's when I dropped it. Would your story change if I told you I watched your whole conversation with him this morning? She broke down instantly, sobbing, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Are you leaving me?" Then she started spilling. She couldn't really remember, but thought she'd had sex with Tyler and another teammate, call the other guy Brandon. And that's about all she could recall. Maybe more. Couldn't say. I felt sick. I asked if this was the first time. She surprised me by saying no. There were other times. One of them even happened in our house while I was asleep upstairs. That was the final straw. I went numb. I helped her pack a bag. She left to stay with family, begging me not to tell anyone. So there I was, alone with the horror show, 2 weeks out from D-Day, totally lost. I keep thinking I don't want to win any medal for worst D-Day, But how do you top finding out your wife ran a train with guys you welcomed into your life, and that one of them's been involved for months? Now Emily wants to pin it on alcohol, says she'll start AA, wants couples therapy, wants us to come out stronger. I think that ship sailed, but I'm a sap for feeling every emotion in the book: anger, grief, and somehow guilt. I don't even know why. I've got a meeting with an attorney tomorrow. I want to believe I'm doing the right thing, even if she's shattered and suddenly motivated to work on it. I can't look at her without seeing her sandwiched between guys I used to high-five. I don't trust her. I'm disgusted, and not just by the night. It's the pattern. I deserve better. I'm not perfect, but I shouldn't feel this guilty, right? There's no fixing this, right? I'm not the villain here, am I? Any kind words or blunt advice helps. I feel dumb typing all this out, even though it makes things clearer. Please go easy on me. Update 1. I'm grateful for the support, truly. It's been almost a month since I first posted, and a lot of you have checked in. Sadly, the story slid from awful to straight-up evil. I don't have a word that nails it. This is long, but it's the only way to sketch how wrecked I am. Days after that first post, I took your advice, scheduled meetings with a couple attorneys and a legal doc prep lady, keeping my options open. Emily didn't know about any of that. We went a few days without talking directly. She was suddenly determined to get us into marriage counseling, the same counseling I'd begged for months before D-Day. She actually got us on a therapist's schedule, but we had to wait about a week and a half. While we waited, I turned into a full-time detective with that cursed iPad. I watched everything: messages, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever I could see. After a week and a half of monitoring, I hadn't found anything else concrete. I started to think maybe she was actually remorseful. Therapy day came. The therapist asked why we were there. I told Emily to explain it in her own words. She skimmed past some parts, but most of it made it onto the table. Then he looked at me and asked, "How does this affect your trust? How do you feel about your marriage?" I just shook my head. I didn't answer his question. I said, "If I don't say this out loud right now, I'm afraid I never will. There's no coming back from this for me. This marriage is over. The vows were broken. My trust is gone. The only thing left is divorce." My stomach twisted. Emily melted down, sobbing. I kept going. "I don't know what can be salvaged between us as people, but the marriage is done. I meant every word at the altar, and I can't pretend this isn't broken beyond repair." Saying it out loud, to her and a neutral third party, brought a weird sense of relief. The rest of the session was the therapist walking her through why my feelings and decision made sense and helping her calm down. Honestly, it couldn't have gone better. He said he wouldn't see us as a couple, not yet. First, he wanted to work with us individually, and maybe, way down the line, talk about reconciliation. I'll spare you the suspense. I have zero intention of reconciling. Not now. Not ever. But individual therapy for me, that might actually help. I also knew I was about to step into a legal maze that could get nasty and expensive for me, the breadwinner in a no-fault state, if things turned ugly. I won't spell out the legal play-by-play until it's finalized. Too risky to post. The bottom line is I needed to keep things amicable. Fast forward about 10 days. We'd each had at least one solo session with the therapist. Emily told her family the marriage was ending because vows were broken and that we were both working on healing. She stayed with her folks, and I kept up the digital surveillance like a man possessed, just in case she slid back into old habits. Then one late night it hit me. I'd never checked the App Store history. I opened the iCloud download list and saw that almost 2 weeks earlier, she'd installed a secret texting app. My stomach dropped. It told me everything at once. She knew I had the iPad, and she was hiding messages on a platform she thought I couldn't see, while insisting I keep the iPad so I could learn to trust her again. What she didn't realize is that any iCloud-linked device can see the download history. I had to know what was inside. I wasn't even in control of myself. I downloaded the app on the iPad, tried a couple of her go-to-login combos, and bingo. There it was. She'd been messaging Tyler on that app since after our first joint therapy session, and they were still meeting up for sex when she knew I'd be out of the area. I puked. I cried. It was 3 in the morning on a weeknight, and I ended up in the bathroom grabbing every prescription bottle I could reach. I carried a handful of pills back to the bed, sobbing, ready to check out. I called my mom. No answer. My dad. No answer. I called my sister. She picked up. Between gasps and tears, I told her what I'd found. She kept me on the phone for an hour until I was numb again. Then I went back to the bathroom, poured the pills back, washed my hands, and laid down in the dark. I didn't sleep. Morning came. I couldn't sit in that house anymore. I dressed for work and threw one of the pill bottles and the iPad into my briefcase. At the office, I handed both to the one coworker I trust most and asked him to lock them in his desk and not give them back to me under any circumstance. He nodded, said nothing, patted my shoulder. So that was it. I finally had what I'd been looking for, undeniable proof. Not only was my wife cheating, she was lying through her teeth while I was trying to keep things civil. For days I wrestled with what to do. Part of me wanted to blast the truth to everyone, her family, friends, acquaintances, so the world knew who she really was and what she was still doing. But I couldn't. The divorce process was already rolling, and there was still a window where she could make this ugly and expensive. Eventually, she stopped by to check on me. I kept my face blank and my words vague. She got frustrated, started yelling about me acting weird. I asked her straight up, "Have you had any contact with Tyler since that night?" She said, "No. I blocked him everywhere." I asked again. She swore up and down he was gross and she'd never do that to me. So I laid it out, then explained this app. "In this video I took of your secret chats, the pictures you two traded, the plans you made to sneak around my schedule." She collapsed, sobbing, begging for, honestly, I don't know what. I kept my voice flat. "Here's what happens next. I won't tell anyone about this, and in exchange you won't fight me on anything in the divorce. I'll be fair, more fair than I should be, but you're going to be served, and then you're going to do nothing. If you push back, people will have to know why I'm being so unreasonable. Your call." She left. 2 days later, she got served. I've kept my end of the deal. Only my immediate family knows. Meanwhile, thanks to Find My iPhone, I can see she's been at Tyler's place every night, the house he shares with his mom. Her family thinks she's at AA meetings. My screenshots show otherwise. And no, I don't know why she hasn't changed her iCloud password. I don't know why I keep gathering proof, but I do. Now I'm stuck in this anxious purgatory, waiting for the clock to run out on her chance to contest anything, knowing her family believes she's doing the right thing, even while she lies to every single one of them. The part that stings the most is the injustice. She gets to be surrounded by people, play the repentant daughter, sneak out nightly to see him, creep back in to keep the act going. I go to work, come home to an empty, haunted house, and sit with what lonely really feels like. I'm past hurting myself, but these days are dark. I'm taking it hour by hour, day by day, until I can get out of this without my finances being wrecked, and then I can finally leave her in the rearview for good. What I'll do after that, I don't know yet. Survival is the only plan right now. Thank you for reading, for the advice and courage and kindness. I don't know you, but I trust you more than I trust my wife. That's saying something. Update 2. This is my third check-in here, and I'm hoping it's the last. The wave of support and straight talk you all gave me pulled me through the bleakest stretch of my life. I waited to write again because, finally, the divorce is official. The 6-month and 1-day cooling-off period crawled by, but it's done. I've gone full no contact, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like the gears of my life are catching again. A lot of folks followed my first 2 posts. D-Day and the fallout were outrageous and ugly, and I should have known the rest of that cooling-off window would be just as chaotic. Here's what happened after my last update. What I didn't share then was that I had already filed with the county to start the divorce. I also took a piece of advice many of you offered. I handed Emily back the iPad and cut off any device/account links that fed my obsession. I'd seen enough. I knew what I wanted out. I won't pretend the route I chose was noble. It probably cost me more emotionally to execute, but it saved me from getting hammered financially for years to come. My state is no fault, and as the primary earner, I was staring down the barrel of something like $2,000 a month in spousal support for half the length of the marriage, despite us having no kids. Absolutely not. Not after what she did. So I got mad, sat with it, and built a plan to exit clean and fast. Looking back, I'm not proud of every tactic. Maybe I shaved a little off my halo. But compared to the mountains of betrayal and damage she dropped on me, my actions were molehills. By the time I posted last, my paperwork was already submitted. I was just waiting for the county stamp. I kept that from Emily, who was still living with family. I set up a few meetups with her, coffee, dinner, neutral places, where I told a story I didn't believe. That maybe, just maybe, we could salvage something. Total fiction. I was very clear, though, that our marriage was done. If there were ever to be a future between us, it would have to be a brand new relationship, post-divorce, starting from scratch. Even typing that now makes me gag, but she bought it. To make the serve easy and avoid drama, I had a mutual friend swing by my place, the house we once shared, and play middleman. Emily signed where she needed to sign, tucked her copies back into the envelope, and didn't comb through the fine print. I doubt she ever did. I had painted a lovely picture. No spousal support, just a clean split of whatever was in the account that day. That single point, avoiding spousal support, was my hill to die on. For the first few months, I stayed mostly away from her, but we met maybe twice a month in public to trade small talk and keep up appearances. I wanted zero chance of a later claim that I'd tried to intimidate or harm her. Meanwhile, I was quietly unwinding our lives. With her help, I removed her from my bank accounts, got her off the lease, and moved her belongings into a storage unit. I told her having her things out would make the house feel less haunted, and that we'd get a fresh place together when we were ready. The lies greased all the hard gears of separation, and she thought she was doing it for us. That playbook carried me 4 of the 6 months I needed to clear. Then, early in month 4, I got a text from one of her relatives, the one she was staying with, asking if we were still trying to work it out. This relative knew about Tyler and the truth, so to keep up my act I said, "Yeah, why?" Back came a photo of Emily and Tyler having dinner in a different city, captioned, "This is happening right now." I let my emotions drive for once, and that was a mistake. I texted Emily asking if she could talk. She replied she was at AA and would call when she got out. I fired back, didn't know they held meetings at restaurant name, and asked if Tyler was her new sponsor. She called immediately and started yelling, accusing me of stalking. I said some words the mods wouldn't approve of, told her exactly what I thought, and made it crystal clear I wanted nothing more to do with her. From there, the last 2 months rolled on with her relationship with Tyler going from private to public. I had them both blocked, but news trickled in through mutuals. People started asking what was going on because Emily was posting pictures and updates. If someone reached out, I told the truth, however much they wanted. The friendships I valued, I wanted on solid ground, and it didn't take more than the facts to win that support. It mattered, hearing people who knew us both say out loud that what she did was horrific. That validation sometimes felt more important than the property split. Most of those folks had tried talking to her first. The through line in every follow-up was the same. She downplayed everything. To her credit, she didn't deny being the one who cheated. She just sanded off the edges. I supplied the edges she skipped. Friends, ours and hers, and even close relatives were stunned. I asked them not to rock the boat until the divorce finalized. As time passed and their posts got bolder, the updates from friends got more frequent, and I had to ask people to stop sending me screenshots. It still hurt. Then Valentine's Day hit, just a few days before the court made it official, and 3 separate people sent me the same post, the 2 of them hugging, with a note about how amazing God is for bringing such a wonderful man into her life, how happy she is, and how she hopes he's the one she'll marry someday. When God shuts a door, he opens a window. The comments were a mess of confused relatives and shocked emoji faces. I wish I could say it rolled off me. It didn't. There's still a grief for what I thought my life would be. Underneath that, there's also a deeper disgust. I feel grossed out by who she's become and angry at myself for not seeing the red flags sooner. As for Tyler, I don't have energy for him. If he sticks around, karma will do what it does. Finally, the court date came. The window closed on her ability to contest anything beyond what we'd last agreed upon back during my reconciliation charade. Result: I kept my entire 401k, owed 0 spousal support, took on no additional debt, hired no lawyers, went to no hearings, and closed the book. That night, I blocked her number. The next day, 7 of my closest friends, 6 of whom used to be ours, threw me a divorce party and documented it on Snapchat. Worth it. Emily blocked every one of them afterward and sent a couple of nasty texts. Her maid of honor was there celebrating me and has cut Emily off for good. P.S. There's one thing eating at me. Back during my D-Day detective phase, I found out Emily was also sleeping with an old flame from her hometown. He has a wife and a kid. I'm stuck on whether to tell his wife. Part of me feels ashamed I haven't said anything. Another part can't stomach setting fire to a family and living with that on my conscience. Do I tell her? Do I say who I am? Do I leave it alone? That worm keeps wriggling in my head. Nausea, anxiety, occasional nightmares. Any thoughtful advice is welcome. Update 3. 17 days from now marks 2 years since D-Day. Reading back over what I wrote then, I honestly didn't think I'd make it this far. Through the shock, the pit-in-the-gut grief, the heavy fog that sat on my chest every morning. A lot of you kind people asked for an update, and I'll warn you up front. Be careful what you wish for. This chapter shows just how low a person can go. After the court finalized our divorce in February 2019, I did my best to go full no contact. That's tougher than it sounds these days. I didn't talk to Emily, but every now and then something slipped through, an old relative of hers I hadn't blocked yet, a mutual friend's Snapchat story, a cousin's Facebook like. My close friends try to protect my peace, but some news is loud enough to punch through. The first bomb dropped that May 2019. One of my best buddies called. Man, Emily's getting remarried to some guy from Tennessee. I said the only thing a stunned brain says. Wait, what? He had screenshots. His wife hadn't blocked Emily yet and caught the build-up. From March to July 2019, her posts turned from vague, everything happens for a reason quotes to coy hints about falling in love. Poor guy. Then, out of nowhere in July, a courthouse photo. Emily and a stranger, hands clasped, rings on, holding what looked like a marriage certificate. Geotagged in California. New last name on display. Caption basically read, starting the rest of my life with an amazing man. Feeling blessed. Look out, Tennessee, here we come. I know this whole saga sounds made up, but I can only give you the straight truth. Curiosity got the better of me, so I reached out to a cousin-in-law of hers. Call him Jordan, someone I'd always gotten along with. He filled in the blanks. The new husband, let's call him Nate, was a guy she'd met online. They talked for a few months by phone and text, fell hard and fast, and he proposed over the phone. She said yes. Within a week he flew to California. They got married on a Saturday in some random courthouse 2 hours from our hometown. And, this is the kicker, that was the first time they'd ever met face-to-face. No one from her family showed up, either because there wasn't time to plan or because they'd had it with the drama. Either way, zero family in attendance. That would have gutted the old Emily I thought I knew. By Monday, a moving truck was packed, and they headed for Tennessee. On one hand, I felt sorry for the guy, if he only knew. On the other hand, I felt relief that she'd be far away and the odds of running into that hurricane in the grocery store were basically zero. I tried to put both of them out of my head and keep moving. Then fall rolled around, and another punch landed. I was idly scrolling Instagram when a video auto-played. Emily's mom, new to the app and public, had posted a clip of Emily holding a plate in front of her dad, his eyes covered. On the plate was a cookie iced blue. Emily's voice counted down. 3-1. It's a boy. A gender reveal. I can't lie, that one wrecked me. It kicked off a run of sleepless nights. The first feeling was pure hurt. The second was a stew of disgust, frustration, and yet jealousy. Becoming a dad is a big dream of mine. If life had followed our old timeline, that could have been me. I was 32 then. I figured I'd be a father by now, not restarting on an empty field. I'm old enough to know I still have time, and I'm trying to be patient, but it's hard not to compare the life I planned to the one in front of me. Even so, when I sat with it, I knew I'd still rather be me than the new husband in that video. I assumed the baby has been born by now. My friends have done me a kindness by not updating me either way. Not knowing is better than knowing, and most days I can let it go. When she and her mess don't cross my mind at all, I count that as real progress. Then the world flipped. The pandemic pushed everyone inside. I had the good fortune to work as an independent contractor, so I kept money coming in from home on my computer. It's lonely work, though. I made myself go on daily walks, and when the walls closed in, I'd drive to see my parents just to hear another voice in the room. I missed the gym. I missed normal. But here's the part one hang on to. When the hopelessness started pressing down, I thought back to the earliest days after D-Day. Back then, I believed I'd never claw out of that hole, and somehow I did. So I remind myself I can get through slow time too. 1 hour at a time if I have to. Time keeps moving whether I'm ready or not. Thank you for reading this far, for caring, for talking me off ledges I didn't even know I was standing on. This community gave me a shot at a decent life, when I was convinced I'd blown my only one. Here's to another 2 years of surviving, and maybe even thriving. Update 4. It's been 3 years since D-Day now, and over a year since my last post. This past year is the first time I've honestly been able to put my head down and focus on me. I don't have fresh intel on Emily or her world. I've gone 100% no contact with her and, tougher still, with her entire family. I even muted and blocked a few mutual friends who meant well, but had a habit of letting information leak onto my feeds. I learned the hard way that if anything connected to her pops up on my phone, my brain goes spinning straight back to the past. Cutting those lines was painful, but necessary. Losing her family hit me in a quiet, unfair way. For a long stretch, they were my family too. I loved a few of them like blood. Accepting that those relationships had to go so I could get healthy was hard, and honestly felt cruel, but it's working. These days, there are far more mornings when she doesn't cross my mind at all than days when she does. And when she does pop up in my head, it's more of a relieved, thank God I dodged that tornado, than a wave of sorrow. During the pandemic, I made a big career move. I launched my own independent consulting business doing tech support and IT system design. It was a leap I might have been too timid to try before, but I took it, and it clicked. I landed a few contracts pretty quickly, including 2 government organizations here in my county. The workload is heavy, but both contracts got renewed for another 12 months with no slowdown in sight. Working for myself, answering only to me, and seeing clients happy with what I deliver, it's changed how I see my own value. Because of that, a lot of things stabilized. My day job is solid, my finances look better than they ever have, and my mind feels mostly cleared out from those old ghosts. I even got my body back into decent shape, which I hadn't felt since before everything exploded. I'm not walking around like I've got life completely figured out, but I like the man I see in the mirror again. There's one part that still needs work: trust, especially with women, but honestly with people in general. That lack of trust actually made walking away from my old job easier. Running my own shop means I only have to count on me, and I've learned I can. But when it comes to dating, the drive has faded. I'm surprisingly fine being alone. I dipped a toe into online dating for a bit, and it felt like a swamp. A lot of profiles talking about something real, and then on the actual dates, a whole different story. I went on 3 or 4 dates about a year ago, and the vibe was the same. Not much substance, lots of attention hunting, and no sense that we were both showing up with honest intentions. I doubt any of them were only talking to me. Maybe that's just how the modern game goes. But it made me feel like I was co-signing the same play the field energy that burned me before. I've had enough of that lesson for one lifetime. I want to be clear. I don't hate women, and I'm not trying to be some tough guy swearing off relationships. A big part of me still wants that connection, real intimacy, a simple, steady partnership where we've got each other's backs. I just refuse to let loneliness talk me into a bad fit. If it takes time, it takes time. I'd rather be patient than repeat history. Every so often, an annoying little voice pops up in my head. You're 34, shouldn't you have a wife and a couple kids by now? Shouldn't you be doing school drop-offs, grumbling about mortgage rates, and planning family trips like all your friends? Then the voice asks, so what do you have, money in the bank? Does that make you feel better? That internal monologue isn't helpful, but it's honest. It's something I'm working on. Here's the counter to that voice. Life doesn't follow a timeline you drew up in your 20s. I'm grateful for the life I've got now, the one I saved for myself. I'm deeply relieved I'm not stuck in a different version of my life with my ex still tethered to me. And I'm hopeful. If I keep showing up for myself, doing the work, and staying open, not naive, just open, then whatever comes next, I'll be able to look back and say I did right by me. I took a rough hand and played it as well as I could. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this, your time, your advice, your hard truths, and your encouragement. I wouldn't have made it here without that chorus at my back.